Hello, this is Jason Fay. I'm a biology teacher in Central New York, and we're at Beaver Lake County Park in Baldwinsville, New York. Today we're going to see if we can find some lichen. Reasons why I really like this park is because it's really interesting geologically and ecologically at the same time. One of the points being behind me, you're going to see this main landmass. But there's some areas of really poor drainage in this lake or around this lake that actually give us a cool little ecosystem called a fen, which is similar to a bog. One of the first things you'll notice as you cross over from the main landmass behind me to the fen is the trees. The substrate in the fen is actually made primarily of dead plant and a little bit of dead animal material, so it kind of floats in a way, and it can't support really tall, heavy structures. It's also really different chemically in the sense that it tends to be a bit more acidic and nutrient poor, making it rich in some really cool species like carnivorous, and I put carnivorous in quotation marks, plants and cool stuff like that. So we're going to walk out onto the fen and see if we can find some lichen growing on the trees. Something else that's really interesting is if you watch really carefully when you walk, very often you can notice some of the taller trees actually bend in towards you as you push the substrate down. I thought I saw some lichen up here to the right, so I'm going to go up and take a turn. Actually have some lichen right here. There's a whole bunch of it on this tree, but this is I have pretty good access to. So hopefully that picture is coming out clear enough to be able to take a peek. It's kind of an interesting structure. At first glance you might think it's moss, but it's actually something quite different than moss. It doesn't even fall into the same kingdom. One of the reasons why lichen is so commonly talked about in biology classes is the fact that it is really unique biologically. Lichen is not a single organism. In fact, it's a symbiotic relationship between two different organisms, and those two different organisms are actually different species. We have a fungus, which kind of provides the structure for the lichen, and it's actually living symbiotically with a bacteria, a form of photosynthetic algae that provides the nutrients in that relationship. One of the really cool things about this is the fact that you're almost witnessing coevolution in action. In fact, you might be witnessing the birth of a new species in a few thousand or several thousand or maybe a million years, though it might not even take that long. This kind of reminds me of the idea that today's eukaryotes, in other words, cells that have organelles, really evolved from a simpler prokaryote, which is a cell that doesn't have membrane-bound organelles. One of the biggest pieces of data or observations that scientists use to make this theory is the fact that if you look at membrane-bound organelles in eukaryotes, such as mitochondria and chloroplasts, they actually have their own DNA. And that DNA is very similar in structure to the DNA that's found in prokaryotes or bacteria. Therefore, you can infer that the first eukaryote may have been a relationship between a prokaryote that maybe enveloped another photosynthetic prokaryote, and that prokaryote was able to live inside the original prokaryote, giving rise to the eukaryotic cells and kingdoms that we have today, very similar to ourselves. Again, this is Mr. Fay checking in from Beaver Lake County Park in Baldwinsville, New York. Hopefully our observation of a lichen and our little discussion about endosymbiosis and the possible evolution of eukaryotic cells will help you understand biology a little bit more. Take it easy.